Captain Marla Garthen strode across the command deck of the Growler flagship Invictus, her massive form casting long shadows in the pulsing blue light of the holographic displays. At nearly 9 feet tall, with slate-gray skin and 4 gleaming eyes, she cut an imposing figure even among her own kind. The bridge crew, all warriors of the mighty Growler Empire, stood at rigid attention as she approached the observation window. "Show me this. Earth again," she commanded, her deep voice reverberating through the chamber. The tactical officer manipulated the controls, and the main view screen flickered to life, displaying a blue-green planet surrounded by primitive satellites and orbital debris. "This is the target, Supreme Commander," the officer reported. "Third planet from a standard G-class star. Abundant water, diverse biosphere, rich in minerals and rare elements. Inhabited by a bipedal species called humans." Garthen narrowed her upper set of eyes, studying the holographic display of the planet's defenses. "And their military capabilities?" Tactical Officer Brelk, a veteran of 3 system conquests, stepped forward. "Primitive by our standards, Supreme Commander. Projectile weapons, rudimentary energy systems, chemical propellants. Their most advanced aircraft can barely reach their own moon. Their global military force. Fragmented. Multiple nations. No unified command structure. We estimate their total combined forces at approximately 50 million personnel, but they're scattered, divided by political boundaries." Garthen made a sound resembling laughter. 50 million? Against our 12 million elite warriors with superior technology? It will be over before the 3rd rotation. From the back of the command deck, a slender figure emerged from the shadows. Unlike the other Growler, this one stood shorter, with a more elongated skull and skin that seemed almost translucent in the dim light. "If I may, Supreme Commander," the figure said, voice soft but carrying a strange authority. Garthen turned, her expression showing mild annoyance. "Intelligence Advisor Rastruck, you have insights to share." Rastruck approached the holographic display, studying it with 6-fingered hands clasped behind his back. "I've been analyzing their communications, their entertainment media, their historical records. These humans, they have peculiarities worth noting. Such as..." Garthen's tone carried impatience. "They've survived multiple planetary catastrophes. They've fought among themselves with devastating weapons. Their history is marked by smaller forces defeating larger ones through unconventional means." Rastruck hesitated, "and their fiction consistently depicts them defeating alien invaders despite technological disadvantages." Laughter erupted across the command deck. Garthen herself let out a booming chuckle. "You've been watching their fantasy stories, Rastruck? Next you'll tell me their superheroes are real threats to our battle cruisers." The laughter intensified, but Rastruck remained composed. "I simply suggest caution. Their physical form may be small, but their adaptability..." "Enough!" Garthen cut him off. "Your thoroughness is noted, but unnecessary. Prepare the invasion fleet. I want planetary approach vectors calculated within the hour." As the command crew dispersed to their stations, Garthen returned her gaze to the blue-green orb on the main view screen. "Such a tiny army on such a resource-rich world," she murmured. "Almost feels unfair." On the far side of the Sol system, hidden in the shadow of Jupiter's moon Europa, an Earth Defense Force monitoring station detected the faint energy signatures of the Growler fleet. Lieutenant Hiroshi Tanaka's fingers flew across his console, confirming the readings before initiating an emergency transmission to EDF headquarters. "This is Europa Outpost to command. Multiple unknown vessels detected beyond Saturn's orbit. Energy signatures match nothing in our database. Estimate at least 30 capital ships on approach vector to Earth. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in the heart of the Earth Defense Force headquarters, Colonel Sarah Alvarez received the transmission with grim determination. She had suspected this day would come. For years, she had advocated for greater investment in orbital defenses, for taking seriously the possibility of extraterrestrial threats. Too many had laughed it off as paranoia. No one was laughing now. "Confirm those readings," she ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "And get me General Harrison." Immediately, within minutes, the main command center was fully activated. Screens displayed the approaching fleet from multiple sensor platforms. Analysts scrambled to estimate capabilities based on energy outputs and geometric configurations. And at the center of it all stood General Marcus Harrison, Supreme Commander of Earth's Unified Defense Forces, his weathered face illuminated by the red alert indicators. "How long do we have, Colonel?" Harrison asked, his voice carrying the weight of 27 years of military command. "Based on their current velocity, 18 hours until they reach lunar orbit," Sarah replied. "And sir, based on their energy signatures, their technological superiority is significant." Harrison nodded slowly, taking in the gravity of the situation. "What about Project Javelin?" "The orbital defense platform isn't ready. We're still 6 months from operational status. And our space-capable fighters? Barely 300, sir, against what appears to be thousands of their craft." Harrison's expression remained stoic, but Sarah had known him long enough to recognize the calculation happening behind those steel-gray eyes. He was weighing impossible odds, considering unthinkable scenarios. "Sir," she ventured, "there's something else we need to consider. The Roswell salvage operation. The technology we've been reverse engineering is experimental at best," Harrison finished. "But you're right. It may be our only edge." He turned to face the command staff. "Implement Defense Protocol Echo 9. I want all world leaders briefed within the hour. And Colonel Alvarez?" "Sir, assemble your team. Operation Tiny Army is now active." Sarah felt a surge of both pride and terror. For 3 years, she had been training a specialized multinational task force for exactly this scenario, a small, elite unit designed to operate against technologically superior opponents. Everyone had mockingly called them the Tiny Army during training exercises, laughing at the notion that such a small force could make any difference against an alien invasion. No one understood that being tiny was precisely the point. As she strode from the command center, Sarah tapped her secure communicator. "This is Alvarez. Priority Alpha. Assemble at Cheyenne Complex, Level 12. We have a go mission. I repeat, Operation Tiny Army is active." Aboard the Growler command ship, Captain Garthen reviewed the final invasion plans with her senior officers. The tactical display showed Earth's major military installations highlighted in red, categorized by threat level. "Their most formidable weapons are these nuclear devices," her weapons officer explained, "but they're surprisingly reluctant to use them. Most are secured in underground facilities here, and here. Neutralize those first," Garthen ordered. "Then their space-based defense systems, primitive as they are. And their ground forces, Supreme Commander?" asked her second-in-command, Subcommander Vrel. Garthen waved a massive hand dismissively. "Send in the harvesters. Standard containment protocols. I want population centers subdued, but infrastructure intact. This planet will make an excellent outpost for our expansion into this sector." Intelligence Advisor Rastruk, who had been silently observing from the periphery, stepped forward again. "If I may suggest, Supreme Commander, our usual shock and awe tactics may prove counterproductive with this species. My analysis of their historical conflicts indicates they often become more unified and determined when facing overwhelming force." Garthen's upper eyes narrowed in annoyance. "You persist with these concerns, Rastruk. What would you have us do? Ask permission to invade?" Nervous laughter rippled through the command deck. "I recommend a targeted approach," Rastruk continued, undeterred. "Test their defenses first. Learn their response patterns before committing our main force." Garthen considered this briefly. "Your caution delays our victory, but I'll humor you. Vrel, dispatch reconnaissance units to these coordinates. Capture some specimens for analysis. Let's see how these humans respond to our arrival." In the depths of Cheyenne Mountain Complex, Colonel Sarah Alvarez stood before the 42 men and women who comprised Operation Tiny Army. Selected from special forces units around the world, they represented the pinnacle of human combat capability, Navy SEALs, SAS operatives, Spetsnaz commandos, Israeli Sayeret Matkal, Chinese snow leopards, and more. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah began, her voice echoing in the reinforced briefing room. The scenario we've trained for is no longer theoretical. An alien fleet approaches Earth with clear invasion intent. Based on their energy signatures and fleet configuration, we're facing a technologically superior force with likely overwhelming numbers. She activated the holographic display, showing the Growler fleet's approach vector. Conventional military response will be initiated, but frankly, it's expected to fail. That's where we come in. She gestured to the assembled operators. Operation Tiny Army was created for this exact contingency. A small, elite force capable of asymmetric warfare against a superior opponent. Major Dmitry Volkov, former Spetsnaz commander, raised his hand. Colonel, with respect, how do 42 operators make a difference against an alien invasion? Sarah nodded, acknowledging the question that was on everyone's mind. By hitting them where they don't expect it, Major. For 3 years, we've been reverse engineering technology recovered from previous extraterrestrial encounters. The Roswell incident wasn't a weather balloon, and neither were the crashes in Brazil and Kazakhstan. She nodded to Dr. Eliza Wong, the team's chief scientific advisor, who stepped forward. We've developed several key technologies based on the recovered artifacts, Dr. Wong explained, activating a display that showed specialized equipment. Adaptive camouflage that can mimic their visual spectrum. Communications disruptors tuned to their likely frequencies. And most importantly, a neural interface that can potentially access their computer systems. Sarah continued, our strategy is threefold. First, we allow ourselves to be captured during the initial invasion. Carefully, by specific units we identify as specimen collectors rather than extermination squads. Second, we deploy from within their own ships using their transportation systems against them. Third, we target command and control functions rather than attempting direct combat. A Trojan horse, muttered Captain Jean-Pierre Dubois, French Naval Special Forces. Exactly, Captain, Sarah confirmed. They'll be looking for massive resistance for our big guns and missiles. They won't be looking for 42 operators inside their own vessels. And if they simply decide to obliterate us from orbit, asked Lieutenant Commander Aisha Khatri, Indian Marine Commando. Then we've already lost, Sarah answered honestly. But our intelligence suggests they want Earth intact. For resources, for colonization. That gives us our window. She looked around the room, meeting each operator's eyes. I won't lie to you. The odds are terrible. Some of us, maybe all of us, won't make it back. But right now, we're the only real plan that has a chance of success. The room fell silent as the elite soldiers absorbed this reality. Then Major Volkov stood. We knew the risks when we joined this unit, Colonel, he said, his Russian accent thick with emotion. Better to die fighting than to live under alien rule. One by one, the others stood as well, a silent affirmation of their commitment. Sarah nodded, feeling a surge of pride. Then let's get to work. We deploy in 6 hours. As the team prepared their equipment, Sarah retreated to her office, where General Harrison waited via secure video link. Are they ready? He asked without preamble. As ready as they can be, Sarah replied. But sir, there's something else we need to discuss. The nuclear contingency. Harrison's face darkened. The Security Council has authorized it only as an absolute last resort. If your operation fails, if conventional forces are overwhelmed. I understand, sir, but my team needs to know the timeline. If we haven't succeeded by a certain point, 24 hours after the invasion begins, Harrison said grimly. That's how long you have before the nuclear option is considered. After that, Earth burns rather than surrenders, Sarah finished. Understood, sir. As the communication ended, Sarah allowed herself one brief moment of doubt, of fear. Then, drawing a deep breath, she buried those emotions deep. Checking her specialized sidearm, loaded with ammunition designed to penetrate the alien armor they expected to encounter, she headed to the armory to join her team. The tiny army was going to war. The first Growler ships entered Earth's atmosphere 12 hours later. Rather than the full-scale invasion force Garthan had initially planned, these were smaller reconnaissance vessels, dropships carrying elite capture teams tasked with securing human specimens and testing defensive capabilities. They descended on 6 continents simultaneously, targeting isolated areas to minimize initial contact. In the Siberian wilderness, a Growler dropship landed in a clearing, its metallic hull gleaming in the morning sun. 12 Growler soldiers emerged, each standing over 8 feet tall, encased in powered armor that enhanced their already formidable strength. Spread out, ordered Unit Commander Trask. The intelligence survey indicates a human military installation 5 kilometers in this direction. Remember, we need intact specimens. The Growler soldiers moved with surprising grace despite their bulk, advancing through the dense forest with weapons at the ready. Their helmet sensors scanned for heat signatures, electromagnetic emissions, any sign of the primitive beings they sought. They found Major Volkov and his 4-person team waiting for them. The ambush was perfectly executed. Shaped charges detonated beneath the forest floor, destabilizing 2 Growler soldiers. Specialized EMP devices, reverse-engineered from the Roswell technology, temporarily disrupted 3 more suits of powered armor. In the confusion, precision shots from human weapons modified with alien technology found vulnerable joints in the Growler armor. Within 30 seconds, 5 Growler lay dead or immobilized. The remaining 7 returned fire, their energy weapons scorching through trees and undergrowth. One of Volkov's team, Captain Rodriguez, took a glancing hit and went down. Fall back to position, Bravo. Volkov ordered, providing covering fire as his team retreated deeper into the forest. The Growler pursued, but cautiously now, unnerved by the effectiveness of the ambush. They communicated in short bursts of their native language, adjusting their tactics, spreading out to avoid another concentrated attack. This was exactly what Volkov had planned for. As the Growler formation widened, his team targeted the most isolated alien, bringing it down with a barrage of modified ammunition. The remaining 6 clustered together again for protection and walked directly into the trap. A net of advanced carbon filaments, nearly invisible and stronger than steel, snapped up from the forest floor, entangling 3 more Growler. While they struggled to free themselves, Volkov's team emerged from cover and engaged the remaining 3 at close range. It was brutal, desperate combat. The humans were physically outmatched, but they had trained for exactly this scenario. They moved like water around the Growler's powerful but predictable strikes, using the aliens' size and strength against them. Momentum redirected, balance points exploited, vulnerable joints targeted. When it was over, 9 Growler lay dead or incapacitated. The remaining 3 had managed to capture Rodriguez and 1 other human operative, exactly as planned. Commander Trask activated his long-range communicator. Command, this is Recon Team 7. We have encountered unexpected resistance. Lost 9 units, but secured 2 human specimens. Requesting immediate extraction. As the Growler dropship ascended back toward the fleet with its human cargo, Volkov watched from concealment, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. He activated his secure communicator. Phase 1 complete. 2 packages delivered. Similar scenarios played out across the globe. In each case, the tiny army teams put up just enough resistance to seem formidable, but ultimately allowed key personnel to be captured. By the end of the day, 14 operatives had been taken prisoner by the Growler reconnaissance teams. Aboard the command ship Invictus, Captain Garthan received the reports with growing irritation. 9 elite warriors lost to capture for primitives? She snarled. Explain this, Subcommander. Vrel shifted uncomfortably. The reconnaissance teams report that the humans employed unexpected tactics and appeared to have weapons capable of penetrating our armor at weak points. However, we've secured specimens as ordered. Intelligence Advisor Rastruk, who had been reviewing the battle footage, spoke up. If I may, Supreme Commander, these weren't random engagements. The humans who were captured were part of organized military units, specifically positioned in the path of our recon teams. Garthan's eyes narrowed. You're suggesting they knew we were coming? Impossible. Their detection technology is primitive. And yet, Rastruk persisted. The evidence suggests preparation. Note how they specifically targeted joint weaknesses in our armor, knowledge they shouldn't possess. And their retreat patterns, they're too coordinated for spontaneous resistance. Are you suggesting we abort the invasion because a handful of humans got lucky? Garthan's voice was dangerously low. Not at all, Supreme Commander. I merely suggest we adjust our approach. If they anticipated our reconnaissance, they may have preparations for the main invasion as well. Garthan studied the tactical display, showing the positions of her massive invasion fleet now in high Earth orbit. Hundreds of ships, thousands of warriors, technology centuries beyond human capability. Your concerns are noted, advisor. But look at the scale of our force compared to theirs. Even if they were somehow warned, even if they had been preparing, what could their tiny army possibly do against us? She turned to Vrel. Proceed with the invasion as planned. Full deployment. I want boots on the ground at all major strategic points within 6 hours. As the command center erupted in activity, Rastruk stepped back, his six-fingered hands clasped behind his back. He watched the Supreme Commander with an unreadable expression, then quietly made his way to the detention level where the human prisoners were being held. He had questions that needed answers. In the sterile confines of the Invictus S detention block, Captain Rodriguez regained consciousness with a splitting headache and the metallic taste of blood in his mouth. He blinked, trying to orient himself in the harshly lit cell. Across from him, Lieutenant Miyazaki sat with her back against the wall, eyes closed but clearly conscious. Rodriguez gave the slightest nod, their signal that the plan was proceeding. No words needed to be exchanged. They had drilled this scenario countless times. The Growler would almost certainly be monitoring them. The cell door slid open with a hydraulic hiss, and a slender Growler entered, noticeably different from the warriors who had captured them. This one moved with a fluid grace, its 4 eyes blinking in an unsettling rhythm. I am Intelligence Advisor Rastruk, it said in surprisingly good English. You are prisoners of the Growler Empire. Your planet is about to be conquered. Resistance is inadvisable. Rodriguez maintained a stoic expression, but allowed just enough fear to show, exactly as they had practiced. The balance was crucial, too defiant, and they might be executed as troublemakers. Too broken, and they would be deemed worthless for intelligence. Why are you attacking us? Rodriguez asked, his voice hoarse. We've done nothing to you. Rastruk tilted his elongated head. Your species occupies a resource-rich world in a strategically valuable location. The Growler Empire requires both. It is nothing personal, merely the natural order. The strong expand, the weak make way. We'll fight you, Miyazaki said, speaking for the first time. All of us. To the last person. Of course you will, Rastruk replied, almost gently. All species do. But your weapons cannot penetrate our capital ships. Your aircraft will be swatted from the sky. Your ground forces will be overwhelmed by our numbers and technology. He paused, studying them. But you knew that already. You knew we were coming. Neither prisoner responded to the probe. Rastruk moved closer. Your resistance was too organized. Your weapons too effective against our armor. Someone warned you. Again, silence. It doesn't matter, Rastruk continued after a moment. The invasion proceeds even now. Your major cities will be under our control within hours. I simply wish to understand. Why did you allow yourselves to be captured? What purpose does it serve? Rodriguez met the alien's gaze steadily. We didn't allow anything. Your soldiers beat us. Rastruk made a sound that might have been laughter. Perhaps. Or perhaps you were here by design. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. In either case, you will witness the fall of your world from this ship. A unique perspective on history. As the door slid shut behind him, Rodriguez and Miyazaki exchanged the briefest of glances. Phase 2 was about to begin. While the Growler invasion force deployed from orbit, the captured members of the tiny army activated the microscopic tracking devices embedded beneath their skin. These quantum-entangled beacons, developed from the recovered alien technology, transmitted their precise locations to EDF headquarters without detectable electromagnetic emissions. General Harrison studied the holographic display showing the positions of all 14 captured operatives spread across the Growler fleet. They're in position, he confirmed to the assembled command staff. Colonel Alvarez's team is aboard what appears to be the command vessel. What about conventional resistance? Asked Admiral Winslow, representing the combined naval forces. Harrison's expression was grim. Proceeding as expected, our air forces have engaged their dropships over major population centers. Casualty reports are significant. Ground forces are deploying to defensive positions, but the technological gap is even wider than we anticipated. The nuclear option? Someone asked quietly. On standby, but we give Colonel Alvarez's team their window first. Harrison checked the mission clock. They have 18 hours to succeed before the Security Council reconvenes to consider final measures. Aboard the Invictus, Sarah Alvarez lay motionless on the cold metal floor of her cell, eyes closed, breathing shallow. Medical sensors in the ceiling monitored her vital signs, reporting them as severely depressed, exactly as the specialized drugs in her system were designed to do. When the door slid open and two Growler guards entered to check on the apparently dying human, she remained perfectly still, even as rough hands lifted her from the floor. Only when they were halfway to the medical bay did she activate the neural disruptor hidden beneath her tongue. The device, no larger than a grain of rice, emitted a targeted pulse that momentarily scrambled the neurological systems of both Growler. In the split second of their disorientation, Sarah struck with lethal precision, driving specialized blades into the base of their skulls where their armor joined their helmets. As the guards collapsed, Sarah dragged their massive bodies into an alcove, quickly stripping one of its armor access panel. From a pouch sewn into the lining of her uniform, she extracted a neural interface device, another product of reverse-engineered alien technology, and connected it to the armor's control system. The interface worked exactly as Dr. Wong had promised, translating the Growler computer language into something Sarah could understand. Within moments, she had accessed a schematic of the ship and located the other detention cells holding her team members. Tiny army. This is Alvarez, she sub-vocalized into her nearly invisible communicator. Phase 2 is active. Implement emergence protocols on my mark. 3, 2, 1 mark. Across the massive ship, the captured Earth operatives sprang into action simultaneously. Using techniques and technologies specifically designed for this moment, they overwhelmed their guards and escaped their cells. Each team member had been briefed on specific objectives: sabotage the propulsion systems, disable weapons controls, disrupt internal security, and most importantly, locate the shield generators that protected the Growler fleet from external attack. Sarah made her way through the labyrinthine corridors of the alien vessel, avoiding patrols when possible, eliminating them silently when necessary. The ship was enormous, dwarfing the largest Earth battleships, but its layout followed logical patterns that they had anticipated based on the recovered technology from previous crashes. As she approached a major junction, Sarah encountered Dr. Wong and Lieutenant Commander Katri, who had successfully escaped their own cells. Status? Sarah asked tersely. Communications hub located on Deck 7. Dr. Wong reported. I've planted the virus in their network. It's spreading through their systems now. Engineering access secured, added Katri. Team 3 is placing charges on the main power conduits as we speak. Sarah nodded. Good. Have you encountered any senior officers? Negative, Katri replied. But security protocols have been elevated. They know we're loose. As if to confirm her assessment, alarms began blaring throughout the ship, a discordant wail that set Sarah's teeth on edge. We need to move faster, she decided. Wong, get to the bridge if you can. Your priority is accessing their command systems. Katri, find the shield generators. I'm going after their leader. As they separated, Sarah consulted the schematics she had downloaded. According to the ship's security protocols, the Supreme Commander's quarters were located near the top of the vessel, adjacent to the main bridge. Getting there undetected would be nearly impossible now that the alarm had been raised. Fortunately, she hadn't planned on remaining undetected for long. On the bridge of the Invictus, chaos reigned. Reports flooded in from across the ship. Security breaches, systems malfunctions, unexplained power outages. Captain Garthen loomed over the tactical display, her massive frame tense with rage. "How did they escape their cells?" she demanded. "Where are they now?" "Unknown, Supreme Commander," replied the security chief. "Our internal sensors are malfunctioning. We've lost tracking capability in multiple sections. Lock down all critical systems." Garthen ordered. "Deploy security teams to the engine room, weapons control, and shield generators immediately." Intelligence Advisor Rastruck stepped forward, his expression troubled. "Supreme Commander, I believe this confirms my earlier suspicions. These humans allowed themselves to be captured. This was their plan from the beginning." Garthen rounded on him, fury in all four eyes. "You suggest our mighty warship has been compromised by a handful of primitives? Impossible." "And yet," Rastruck replied calmly, "the evidence suggests exactly that." The ship shuddered suddenly, and the lights flickered. A junior officer called out in alarm. "Supreme Commander, we've lost contact with engine control. Power fluctuations detected throughout the ship." "Battle status of the fleet?" Garthen demanded. "Multiple vessels reporting similar issues," the communications officer reported. "Unexpected resistance on the ground as well. Human forces appear to be equipped with weapons that can penetrate our armor." For the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed Garthen's face. She activated the ship-wide communication system. "This is Supreme Commander Garthen to all Gralver warriors. The human prisoners are attempting sabotage. Hunt them down and eliminate them immediately. No merci. No prisoners." As she issued the order, the bridge doors exploded inward in a shower of metal fragments. Through the smoke strode a single human figure, small by Gralver standards, but moving with deadly purpose. Colonel Sarah Alvarez entered the bridge, armed with both her specialized sidearm and a Gralver plasma rifle taken from Fallen Guard. Before the bridge crew could react, she fired a precise burst, disabling the two nearest security officers. "Supreme Commander Garthen, I presume?" Sarah said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. Garthen stared in disbelief at the tiny human female who had somehow breached her command bridge. "You dare?" she snarled, reaching for her own weapon. Sarah fired again, the specialized ammunition penetrating Garthen's armor at the shoulder joint. The massive alien staggered, but remained standing. "Your invasion has failed," Sarah announced, addressing the entire bridge crew. "Even now, your fleet is being disabled ship by ship. Your ground forces are meeting resistance you never anticipated." "Lies!" Garthen roared, advancing despite her injury. "One human cannot defeat the might of the Gralver Empire." "Not one human," Sarah corrected. "All of humanity, united against a common threat. You should have heeded your advisor's warnings." She glanced at Rastruck, who stood apart from the other officers, observing with what appeared to be fascination rather than fear or anger. "You called us the tiny army," Sarah continued. "You laughed at our size, our primitive technology. But you fail to understand what makes humans dangerous. We adapt. We improvise. We overcome." Garthen lunged forward with surprising speed for her size, closing the distance before Sarah could fire again. A massive hand seized Sarah by the throat, lifting her off the ground. Bold words from such a fragile creature. Garthen hissed, tightening her grip. "I will crush you myself, then display your body as a warning to your species." Sarah struggled for breath, but managed to press a button on her wrist communicator. Throughout the ship and across the Gralver fleet, the planted charges detonated simultaneously, not with destructive force, but with precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses designed to overload Gralver power systems. The bridge plunged into darkness, emergency lighting casting eerie shadows. Garthen's armor, including the strength-enhancing systems that allowed her to hold Sarah aloft with one hand, suddenly went dead. The Supreme Commander staggered under the unexpected weight reduction, her grip loosening just enough. Sarah twisted free, landing in a crouch before sweeping Garthen's legs from under her. The massive alien crashed to the deck with a thunderous impact. Before she could recover, Sarah pressed the muzzle of her sidearm against a vulnerable spot at the base of Garthen's skull. "Signal your fleet to stand down," Sarah ordered. "Now." Pride warred with survival instinct in Garthen's eyes. "You cannot hope to control an entire invasion force with one gun." "Look around you, Commander," Sarah replied. "Your ship is compromised. Your systems are failing. And if you check your fleet status, you'll find similar situations on every vessel." As if on cue, the communications officer reported, "Supreme Commander, we're receiving distress calls from multiple ships. Systems failures, security breaches. Similar to our own situation. In an orbital position above us," Sarah added, "Earth's combined space forces are preparing to fire on your disabled vessels. Your shields are down. Your weapons systems compromised. Impossible, Garton whispered. Check for yourself." The tactical officer, after receiving a nod from Garthen, confirmed the horrifying truth. She's right, Supreme Commander. Our shields are inoperative. Multiple Earth vessels are in position. They appear to be armed with weapons based on our own technology. Garthen's 4 eyes widened in shock. "Ow! We've been preparing for this possibility for decades," Sarah explained. "Every crash scout ship, every piece of alien technology that reached Earth, we studied it, reverse engineered it, adapted it to our needs. When your invasion came, we were ready." She pressed the weapon harder against Garthen's vulnerable spot. "Last chance. Signal your fleet to stand down, or watch it be destroyed piece by piece." In that moment, Rastruk stepped forward. "Supreme Commander, I recommend compliance. The tactical situation has evolved beyond our expectations." Garthen's massive frame seemed to deflate slightly. With visible reluctance, she nodded to her communications officer. "Signal the fleet. Cease all hostile actions. Withdraw to defensive positions." As the order was transmitted, Sarah maintained her position, weapons steady. "This isn't over," she warned. "Your empire has attacked a sovereign world without provocation. There will be consequences. You cannot hope to threaten the Gralver Empire," Garthen replied, but the certainty had gone from her voice. "We span 10 star systems. This defeat is temporary." "Perhaps," Sarah acknowledged. "Or perhaps it's the beginning of something new." She activated her communicator. "General Harrison, this is Colonel Alvarez. The Gralver command vessel is secure. Their fleet has been ordered to stand down." Harrison's voice came through clearly. "Confirmed, Colonel. We're seeing withdrawal movements across all theaters. The Security Council is convening now to discuss terms." Sarah kept her weapon trained on Garthen as she addressed the alien commander. "Your empire may span 10 star systems, but you've never encountered humans before. Remember this day. Remember what happened when you laughed at the tiny army of Earth." In the weeks that followed, the aftermath of the failed Gralver invasion reshaped Earth's geopolitical landscape. For the first time in human history, nations united not just in word but in action, facing an existential threat that made previous conflicts seem trivial by comparison. The surrender negotiations took place aboard a neutral vessel in Earth orbit. General Harrison led the human delegation, while the Gralver were represented by his subcommander Vrel, Captain Garthen having been relieved of command following her unprecedented defeat. "Your terms are unusual," Vrel observed, reviewing the document before him. "No territorial concessions, no resource tributes, no acknowledgement of Gralver supremacy. We're not interested in your usual conquest protocols," Harrison replied firmly. "Earth demands recognition as a sovereign world, off-limits to further Gralver expansion. Additionally, we require technology exchange as reparation for your unprovoked aggression." Vrel's upper eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of agitation in Gralver physiology. "You expect us to simply share our advanced technology with a species that has proven itself unexpectedly dangerous. Consider it insurance," Harrison countered. "The more our technologies align, the less likely future conflict becomes. Besides," he added with the ghost of smile, Your ships are still disabled in our orbit. Your position for negotiation is limited. Intelligence advisor Rastruk, who had requested to join the Gralver delegation despite his junior status, leaned forward. If I may, Subcommander, the humans' terms are reasonable considering the circumstances. More importantly, they demonstrate an understanding of long-term stability that aligns with the Empire's true interests. Vrel shot Rastruk a glare that would have withered a less composed individual. You exceed your authority, advisor. Perhaps, Rastruk acknowledged. But I speak with the historical perspective of one who has studied hundreds of conquered worlds. None have ever managed what these humans accomplished. That suggests unique value. Colonel Alvarez, seated beside Harrison, studied Rastruk with open curiosity. Throughout the crisis, this particular Gralver had demonstrated unusual insight and an equally unusual willingness to advocate for caution rather than conquest. Your recommendation is noted, advisor, Vrel said coldly, before turning back to Harrison. We will agree to recognize Earth's sovereignty and establish a non-aggression pact. The technology exchange will be limited to non-military applications initially. Harrison glanced at Sarah, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. It was more than they had expected. Acceptable as a starting point, Harrison said. We'll establish a joint commission to oversee the exchanges. Colonel Alvarez will lead from our side. As the details were finalized and the formal agreement prepared for transmission to both Earth's United Nations and the Gralver High Command, Sarah found herself approached by Rastruk in a quiet moment. Your tiny army strategy was illuminating, the Gralver said, his melodic voice pitched low. I have studied 17 intelligent species across our expansion. None have employed such an approach. Sarah maintained a diplomatic expression. Necessity breeds innovation, advisor Rastruk. Indeed, he hesitated, then added, there are others in the galaxy, Colonel. Species more aggressive than the Gralver, with fewer ethical constraints. Your victory here will not go unnoticed. Before Sarah could respond, Rastruk was called back to the Gralver delegation. She watched him go, feeling a chill that had nothing to do with the environmental systems. The treaty was signed 3 days later. The Gralver fleet, gradually restored to operational status under strict human supervision, departed Earth's solar system, leaving behind a mixed delegation of diplomats and technical advisors as part of the newly established exchange program. As Sarah watched the final ships disappear from tracking range, she stood alone in the observation deck of the orbital platform that had, until recently, been the Earth Defense Force's last-ditch command post. Should we be celebrating? Came a voice from behind her. General Harrison approached, looking more tired than triumphant. I'm not sure, Sarah admitted. We want a battle, maybe even a war. But Rastruk's warning troubles you, Harrison finished. He joined her at the viewport, staring into the star-filled darkness where the Gralver fleet had vanished. We got lucky, Sarah said after a moment. They underestimated us, gave us time to implement. Operation Tiny Army. The next ones might not make the same mistake. Harrison nodded slowly. Then we make sure we're ready. The technology exchange with the Gralver will accelerate our development by decades. And now we know for certain what's out there. A galaxy full of potentially hostile powers, Sarah said grimly. Wonderful. A galaxy full of challenges, Harrison corrected. And opportunities. The United Nations Security Council has already approved the expansion of the EDF into a true space force. And they want you to lead it, Colonel. Or should I say, General Alvarez? Sarah turned to him in surprise. Me? But there are more senior officers. None who did what you did. Harrison cut her off. None who conceived and executed Operation Tiny Army. The world's governments are unified on this point, perhaps for the first time in history. They want the person who saved Earth to lead its defense going forward. Sarah fell silent, absorbing the magnitude of the responsibility being offered. Finally, she nodded. I'll need to expand the program, recruit more specialized teams, and Dr. Wong's research division will need unlimited funding. Already approved, Harrison assured her. Whatever you need. Sarah turned back to the viewport, her mind racing with plans, contingencies, possibilities. They laughed at us, she said softly. At our tiny army. They're not laughing now. No, Harrison agreed. But they're watching. They're all watching. In the vast conference chamber of the Gralver High Command, located on the throne world of Gralvex Prime, Captain Garthen stood at rigid attention before the tribunal of elders. Her career, her life, hung in the balance as she delivered her report on the failed Earth invasion. And so, despite technological superiority and numerical advantage, the human resistance succeeded in compromising our fleet systems through previously unencountered infiltration tactics, she concluded, her voice steady despite the humiliation burning within her. Elder Krosner, eldest of the tribunal, leaned forward, his ancient face furrowed with displeasure. In the 2,000 cycles of Gralver expansion, no invasion force has ever been repelled by a pre-interstellar civilization. Your failure is unprecedented, Captain. I accept full responsibility, Garthen replied stiffly. Intelligence Advisor Rastruck's reports suggest you dismissed multiple warnings about human capabilities, added Elder Morvax. Is this accurate? Garthen hesitated. Blaming a subordinate would be dishonorable. Yet Rastruck's cautions had proven prophetic. The advisor expressed concerns, she acknowledged. I judged them overstated based on available intelligence. The elders conferred briefly in hushed tones before Krosner spoke again. The treaty signed with these humans represents a significant deviation from Imperial protocol. Yet the Strategic Council advises that honoring it may be in our long-term interest. The humans are dangerous, interjected Elder Lintar, the most militaristic of the tribunal. Not for their technology, which remains inferior, but for their adaptability and unpredictable tactics. This tiny army approach, using our own strengths against us, suggests a species that warrants further study before renewed engagement. Garthen maintained a rigid posture, but inwardly, she seethed. These same elders had approved the invasion, had shared her assessment of Earth as an easy conquest. Now, they spoke as if her caution had been insufficient. What of the technology exchange? She asked, careful to keep her tone neutral. We risk accelerating their development beyond controlled parameters. Elder Krosner waved a dismissive hand. The treaty specifies non-military applications only. By the time they could reverse engineer our systems for warfare, we will have advanced further still. The exchange buys us time to better understand the species before determining their final status. And my status, elders? Garthen asked directly. The tribunal exchanged glances before Krosner delivered their judgment. You will be reassigned to the Frontier Expeditionary Force, Captain Garthen. Your experience with human tactics may prove valuable in assessing other potentially problematic species. Your rank is preserved, but you will not command a capital ship again until you have demonstrated suitable restoration of honor. It was a severe demotion disguised as a face-saving reassignment. Garthen accepted it with the dignity expected of a Gralver officer, bowing deeply before the tribunal. There is one additional matter, Elder Lintar added as Garthen prepared to depart. Intelligence Advisor Rastruck has requested permanent assignment to the Earth Diplomatic Delegation. Given his unique insights into human behavior, this request has been granted. Garthen's upper eyes narrowed slightly. Rastruck's continued involvement with Earth struck her as suspicious, but she knew better than to question the tribunal's decision. The Empire is wise to maintain close observation of this unpredictable species, she said carefully. Indeed, Krosner agreed. You are dismissed, Captain. As Garthen exited the chamber, her mind churned with conflicting emotions. Humiliation at her defeat, yes. Anger at the tribunal's hypocrisy, certainly. But beneath these burned something else, a grudging respect for the species that had outwitted her. The humans and their tiny army had earned her enmity, but also her attention. One day, she vowed silently, she would return to Earth. Not as a conqueror, perhaps, but as something else. Something worthy of the species that had handed the mighty Gralver Empire its first defeat in 20 generations. 6 months after the Gralver withdrawal, Earth had changed in ways both visible and invisible. The existence of intelligent alien life and its hostile intentions had unified humanity with unprecedented speed. National borders remained, but a new planetary identity had emerged alongside them. The Earth Defense Force had expanded into the United Earth Space Command, with bases on the Moon and Mars, and a growing fleet constructed with Gralver technical assistance. In Antarctica, far from population centers, the Joint Technology Exchange Facility housed the most ambitious collaboration in human history. Here, Gralver technical advisors worked alongside Earth's brightest minds, ostensibly sharing non-military technologies while carefully observing human innovation methods. Dr. Eliza Wong led the human research team, coordinating efforts across disciplines from quantum computing to biomechanics. As she conducted her daily inspection of the facility, she was accompanied by her Gralver counterpart, Intelligence Advisor Rastruck, whose role had expanded from diplomat to chief technology liaison. Your team's adaptation of our propulsion concepts is creative, Rastruck observed as they passed a test chamber where engineers worked on a modified ion drive. The efficiency improvements exceed our projected parameters. Humans have always been good at making more from less, Dr. Wong replied. Necessity and resource constraints breed innovation. Rastruck's upper eyes blinked in what Wong had come to recognize as thoughtful consideration, a pattern consistent with your military success as well. The tiny army strategy employed similar principles. Maximum effect from minimal resources. Wong shot him a sideways glance. 6 months of close collaboration had established a professional relationship that, while not exactly friendly, had developed into something resembling mutual respect. Still, she remained cautious about discussing military matters with the Gralver representative. General Alvarez deserves the credit for that approach, she said neutrally. Indeed, Rastruck paused before a window overlooking the quantum entanglement lab. My superiors remain fascinated by her tactics, as do others beyond our borders. Wong stopped walking. What do you mean, others beyond your borders? Rastruck seemed to consider his next words carefully. The galaxy is more populous than your species yet realizes, Dr. Wong. The Gralver Empire spans 10 star systems, yes, but we are neither the largest nor the most advanced civilization in this sector. You've never mentioned this before, Wong said, her scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic caution. It was not relevant to our initial exchanges, Rastruck replied. But as your development accelerates, you approach a threshold where such knowledge becomes necessary. Before Wong could press for clarification, her secure communicator signaled an urgent message. Excuse me, she said, stepping away to take the call. The face of General Alvarez appeared on the small screen. Dr. Wong, we have a situation. The Deep Space Monitoring Array has detected multiple objects approaching the solar system. They're not Gralver signatures. Wong felt her blood run cold. New contacts? From where? Unknown, but they're coming fast. I need you and your team at Command HQ immediately. Sarah's expression was grave. And bring Rastruck. If these aren't his people, we need to know whose they are. As Wong ended the call and turned back to Rastruck, she found the Gralver watching her with an expression she couldn't quite interpret. Trouble, Doctor? He inquired. Potentially, she admitted, seeing no point in concealment. We've detected unknown vessels approaching Earth. Not Gralver. To her surprise, Rastruck showed no shock, only a resigned sort of confirmation. Sooner than expected, he murmured. The news of your victory spread faster than I anticipated. You knew this would happen? Wong demanded. I suspected it might, Rastruck corrected. Your defeat of the Gralver invasion force was unprecedented. Such events rarely go unnoticed in galactic politics. Wong stared at him, a chill running down her spine despite the climate-controlled environment. General Alvarez wants us both at Command HQ. Now, Rastruck inclined his elongated head. Of course, I believe I may have insights that will prove valuable in the coming hours. As they hurried toward the transport pad, Wong couldn't shake the feeling that Earth had just stepped onto a much larger stage, and that the Gralver incident had been merely a prelude to something far more consequential. The United Earth Space Command Headquarters, established in the repurposed International Space Station and significantly expanded with Growler-inspired technologies, hummed with tense activity. On the main observation deck, General Sarah Alvarez studied the holographic display showing the approaching vessels. Configuration unknown, reported Lieutenant Commander Catry, now Sarah's tactical officer. Propulsion signature doesn't match anything in the Growler database they've shared with us. Numbers? Sarah asked. 3 capital ships, approximately twice the size of Growler battlecruisers. Numerous smaller escorts. They'll reach Luna orbit in approximately 6 hours at current velocity. Sarah nodded, mentally reviewing their defensive options. The Earth fleet, though enhanced with reverse-engineered Growler technology, remained woefully outmatched against most spacefaring civilizations. Their primary advantage, the tiny army approach of infiltration and asymmetric warfare, required time and intelligence they didn't currently possess about these new arrivals. Any attempt at communication? She asked. Nothing we can interpret, responded Communications Officer Patel. We're receiving transmissions, but the language structure doesn't match any Earth or Growler patterns. The command deck doors slid open, admitting Dr. Wong and Rastruck. Sarah noted the tension in Wong's posture and the curious calm in Rastruck's alien features. You have information about our visitors? Sarah asked without preamble. Rastruck approached the holographic display, studying the ship configurations. After a moment, he nodded. The Krydos Dominion, a matriarchal society controlling 16 star systems along the galactic rim. Technologically advanced, particularly in bioadaptive systems and gravitic weaponry. Hostile, Sarah pressed. Opportunistic, Rastruck corrected. They expand through diplomatic absorption when possible, military conquest when necessary. Their interest in your system was inevitable following your repulsion of our invasion force. Sarah felt a surge of frustration. And you're only sharing this information now? The treaty between Earth and the Growler Empire specified technology exchange, not strategic intelligence, Rastruck pointed out. However, given the current circumstances, I am authorized to provide tactical assessment of the Krydos capabilities. Sarah exchanged glances with Dr. Wong, who gave a slight nod. Whatever her disagreements with Rastruck's timing, his information was now their best resource. Proceed, Sarah ordered. Rastruck gestured to the display, which responded to his movements, a feature of the command system specifically designed to accommodate their Growler advisors. Krydos vessels utilize a decentralized command structure, he explained. Unlike Growler ships, where disabling the bridge cripples operational capability, Krydos vessels can maintain functionality even with significant internal damage. So our tiny army approach would be less effective, Sarah noted. Precisely. Additionally, Krydos security protocols include biorecognition systems. Their ships would immediately detect unauthorized species aboard. Sarah absorbed this information grimly. What about their intentions? Are they here to conquer, explore, or something else? Rastruck's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. A gesture Sarah had learned indicated uncertainty. The Dominion rarely commits a fleet of this size to mere observation. Their appearance so soon after our withdrawal suggests they are here to assess Earth's potential as ally, vassal, or conquest. We defeated your invasion, Sarah pointed out. Couldn't we do the same to theirs? The Growler underestimated you, Rastruck said bluntly. The Krydos will not make the same mistake, particularly with access to our after-action reports. They will have analyzed your tactics and developed countermeasures. A heavy silence fell over the command deck as the implications sank in. Earth had barely survived the Growler invasion through innovation and surprise. Against an enemy prepared for their tactics, with superior technology and no element of surprise. Options? Sarah asked, addressing the room at large. Strategic Officer Nakamura spoke up. If direct confrontation is inadvisable, perhaps diplomacy is our best approach. Establish communication, demonstrate our value as potential allies rather than conquered territory. The tiny army concept could be adapted, offered Major Volkov, who had been promoted to head of special operations following the Gralver conflict. Not infiltration this time, but deception. Make them believe we have capabilities beyond our actual strength. A dangerous gambit, Rastruk observed. The Krydos are adept at detecting technological falsehoods. Sarah paced the length of the holographic display, studying the approaching fleet from all angles. What about a third option? Neither fighting nor submitting, but demonstrating our uniqueness. General, Wong looked puzzled. The Gralver underestimated us because they saw only our technological limitations, not our adaptive capabilities, Sarah explained, her thoughts crystallizing as she spoke. The Krydos may make a different mistake, assuming we'll employ the same tactics that worked against the Gralver. So we surprise them with something completely different, Katri concluded, following Sarah's logic. Exactly. But what? Sarah turned to Rastruk. In your assessment, what would the Krydos least expect from a species at our development level? Rastruk considered the question carefully. The Dominion operates from a position of technological superiority in all its encounters. They would not expect a pre-FDL civilization to offer them something they do not already possess. Like what? Wong pressed. Knowledge, Rastruk said simply. Not technology, but insight. Understanding of species or phenomena they have not yet encountered. Sarah's eyes lit with sudden inspiration. Like the Gralver, a ripple of confusion spread through the command staff, but Rastruk's upper eyes widened in what appeared to be appreciation of her logic. You suggest positioning Earth as an informational nexus, he said slowly. A world that, despite its technological limitations, has unique strategic value due to its relationships with multiple advanced civilizations. We're the first species to defeat a Gralver invasion and negotiate favorable terms, Sarah pointed out. That alone makes us unique. And now we have detailed knowledge of Gralver technology, tactics, and culture that the Krydos may value. Intelligence as leverage, Rastruk murmured. Unorthodox, but potentially effective. The Dominion values information almost as highly as territory. Sarah turned to her communications officer. Prepare a transmission to the Krydos fleet. Basic mathematical sequences to establish communication protocols, followed by a formal greeting identifying Earth as a sovereign world with established diplomatic relations with the Gralver Empire. As her orders were carried out, Sarah addressed Rastruk directly. We'll need your assistance constructing a message the Krydos will understand, and your insights on their likely responses. You realize, Rastruk said quietly, that by positioning Earth as an informational intermediary between galactic powers, you fundamentally alter your species' trajectory. This is not a path easily abandoned once begun. Sarah met his alien gaze steadily. The moment your invasion fleet appeared in our skies, Earth's path was irrevocably changed. We're adapting to that reality as best we can. Indeed, Rastruk inclined his head respectfully. A most human response. As the command center mobilized to prepare for contact with the approaching Krydos fleet, Sarah moved to the viewport, staring out at the star-filled darkness of space. 6 months ago, humanity had faced its first contact with an advanced alien civilization intent on conquest. They had prevailed through ingenuity, courage, and the unexpected effectiveness of their tiny army strategy. Now, facing a potentially greater threat, they would need to evolve again, not just militarily, but diplomatically and strategically. The galaxy, it seemed, was a far more crowded and complex place than humanity had imagined. We're transmitting now, General, reported Communications Officer Patel. Sarah nodded, watching as the message, Earth's formal introduction to its second alien civilization, was sent toward the approaching Krydos vessels. Whatever came next, humanity would face it united, wiser for their experiences, and determined to secure their place among the stars not just through force of arms, but through the uniquely human capacity for adaptation and innovation. The tiny army had proven that humanity could not be conquered easily. Now, they would prove that humanity could not be underestimated in any arena, military, diplomatic, or intellectual. As the first response from the Krydos fleet appeared on the communications array, Sarah squared her shoulders and prepared to lead humanity into its next great challenge. The galaxy had laughed at Earth's tiny army once before and learned a harsh lesson for that mistake. Whatever the Krydos' dominion intended, they would soon discover that the smallest beings could cast the longest shadows. Behind her, Dr. Wong approached with a data tablet displaying the initial translation of the Krydos' response. General, they're requesting visual communication. They want to see who they're dealing with. Sarah smiled grimly. Good. Let's show them exactly who we are. As the communication systems calibrated for first visual contact with the Krydos representatives, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on the irony. The Growler had laughed at Earth's tiny army until they realized it contained human soldiers, adaptable, resourceful, and impossible to predict. The Krydos, it seemed, were about to learn the same lesson in a different way. Because no matter how advanced their technology or how vast their dominion, they had never encountered anything quite like humanity before. And humanity, against all odds, was just getting started.